When you've been given a multidimensional, ahead of its time, trailblazing, culture shifting vision from God and your ancestors, there's a very specific process required for you to bring it into form. In this video, I'll break down each phase of the process so you can implement it into your own vision. Hi, I'm Naomi Olatayo, and I'm the Brand Priestess, and I partner with spiritual founders with multi-venture visions to bring it into full materialization, coherence, and alignment with the vision that God has given them. If this video activates you at all, consider subscribing to my newsletter, Letters from My Living Room, where founders just like you go to when they're ready to apply, embody, and activate their alignment in their leadership, life, and their brand. But anyways, let's get into my video. The vision you've been given as a founder has never been done before. So the process of bringing it into materialization is different than what capitalism demands of you, what it requires of you, and what has traditionally been taught. You have to get into the understanding that this is new. It doesn't matter if you're thinking, oh, well, I'm just building a skincare line or I'm just building an app. The medium is never going to be different unless you're inventing something new. But typically, you're not doing something different. The medium might be the same, but the energy behind it, your framing, your positioning, the you behind it is what makes it new. The structuring is what makes it new. And you have to understand that, because if you try to build or materialize this vision according to what you've been taught, you're always going to run into the same dilemma, which is either suppression, dilution, shrinking, whatever it is. You have to stand firm in your understanding and knowing that this is something new and that you're the blueprint. This has never been done before. The vision that you're carrying requires two things: integrity, which is completeness, and accuracy. It has to be complete, in complete alignment with what God has given you, and it has to be accurate. That is your responsibility. And there are 5 phases to this process. And I would say that they're embodied states rather than tactical strategies. Especially in the beginning phases, it's so easy to think, okay, so what do I need to do? What do I need to physically do in this whatever? But remember, being that this is the nature of this vision is spiritual first because it was bestowed upon you, you can't think about it in natural means initially. And through these embodied states that you'll be going through, your aligned actions will follow those states. So whether you've never launched before or you're feeling led to realign everything that you've already built to mirror the vision that God has given you, they're going to follow the same general process. You're going to be taken to the same general 5 processes, regardless of where you are. Doesn't matter if you literally got the idea yesterday or you're 15 years into the business and you've opened multiple companies and you're only now recognizing that something needs to shift. Anyways, phase 1. I call this phase the founder as universe phase. This is the origin phase. This is the initial state of creation. This spans from you first receiving the vision to you just gestating it and like understanding it and taking it into your body, right? So at this phase, you, the founder, is the entire energetic field. These ideas, this vision, this mission, this purpose exists nowhere but within you. You are the only one who can see it, experience it, interact with it, besides God, but it's only within you. This vision only exists within your consciousness and your imagination. And in this phase, you are getting downloads, you're re-encountering and reintegrating the original creative blueprint that God has given you. And for a lot of you, you're still in this phase, but you are remembering after years of fragmentation. There are a lot of founders, and even myself, where we've gone through things and we've lost sight of the vision, or we've given up, or we've settled in where we were, or maybe there was some trauma that happened, or even just early childhood stuff that made us disconnect from this vision. And so in this phase, you're going to be becoming reacquainted with who you are and what you were called to build. In this phase, the vision is not separate from you. It is in your agreement, your awareness, and your acknowledgement of this vision that this vision still exists. Your agreement, your awareness, and acknowledgement. If you lack any of the 3, the vision begins to die. But notice how you're consciously, subconsciously dreaming and thinking and planning around this vision, even if you have no idea in how you're going to bring this about, even if you're so comfortable in the life that you've already built, it's always back in your mind. Like, you think about it, you draw about it, you create around it, like it's always there. Even if it's just subtle awareness, it's still alive with you. And it never truly dies. I will say, it never truly dies, but it gets stronger the more that you are aware of it. At this phase, your vision exists purely in potential. There's no structure, so it's in the formless and void. And it is basically the equivalent of God's spirit hovering over the face of the water. Your spirit is hovering over the face of the water. That, or waters of the deep. Your spirit, which is your consciousness, is hovering over pure potential. Everything that you see in your imagination, every single thing that you see in your mind's eye exists formless, without any true form, and it exists in pure potential, pure, raw, creative potential. In this phase, it is not easy to articulate the vision deeply. You may not have name for it, you may not have understanding, but you feel it more somatically. And oftentimes, if you are able to articulate it, you're either using like fluffy spiritual language, nature-based analogies, cosmological languages, instead of concrete words like product lines, revenue models, etc., or you're condensing the expanse of it all into communicable or easily recognizable names. Like, for example, even now when people ask, what do you do for a living, I say I'm a brand strategist, because I mean, to begin with, most people don't even know what a brand strategist is. If you're not in the marketing world, you definitely don't know what a brand strategist is. But it's easier to explain when they're like, oh, what's that? I say, I work in marketing. They're like, oh, you're a marketer. I'm like, yeah. That's not even half of what I do. That's not even a quarter. I'm not even technically that. If you watch my other video, Why God Named Me the Brand Priestess, then you'll understand more why I say that now. But it's just easier to explain, and sometimes you don't even understand who you are, what you're doing. So it's just easier to condense it into specific languages. But yeah, and also in this phase, it can cause a lot of confusion between visions. Like, you're a multi-venture, multi-industry, multi-dimensional vision holder as a founder, right? So the visions there's so many of them, and you can kind of separate them, but then they kind of all overlap, and it's just a mess. For me, I used to call it House of Brands, but now I call it like the brand ecosystem or brand universe, and they just kind of all bled into each other. I didn't fully understand how my desire to be an actor meshed into my desire to have a hair care brand, which meshed into my desire to be who I am right now, what I'm doing, what you're watching me do, right? It just didn't make sense. And then there were times where the ventures in my vision that were more similar, like being an investor, being a brand strategist, even being in sales, like those are all parts of my vision. I just couldn't understand, like I didn't understand how to differentiate them at that point. The danger in this phase is moving too quickly into articulation, that it causes an energetic miscarriage. And that's where the founder or you start naming before the vision cellular code has finished forming. So this often happens when you're impatient or you're in survival mode. A lot of times we assume that the ideas we have were meant to be cashed into like quick money. And so you might have been given a vision to start a bee farm and sell the honey. But because you're broke and you already have the farm, you're like, okay, let me just quickly do whatever. And it never truly actualizes into anything, and it just kind of falls through because it was never something for you to attach onto the parts of you that have money wounds or just survival wounds. You know what I mean? So if you move too quickly, it's never going to work. You're going to experience a lot of stagnation, and this is dangerous because you start losing confidence in yourself and in your vision. And so now you're thinking, I'm not a great salesperson, I'm not a great businesswoman, businessman, whatever. But it was never about what you were good at, what you're not good at. It was just the fact that you were moving out of alignment with the proper time and formation of this vision internally. So, typically when I work with founders in the Vision Revelation Intensive, they come to me when they're in this phase and also teetering into phase 2. They come to me so they can move into phase 2. So typically they come to me and they just have a giant word salad of vision. They can't tell me what it is that they're building, but they can tell me what it feels like. They can tell me what they see. They have vision boards on Pinterest, mood boards on Pinterest. Like, they have a lot of things about a lot of stuff. They can reference movies that they can say, like, oh, this movie is what is shows you what I want to build. Or they can say, you know, this celebrity, they built this and I want it to kind of look like this, but also a little bit of this. Or, you know what I mean? Like, they're very heavy in analogy language. They just can't tell me what it is. And it's my job to bring form through articulation and architecture to the vision. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Anyways, the next phase is founder as lens. This is the clarification phase. This is the phase where you, the founder, develop language of perception, and then you begin to see your vision through specific angles. So maybe instead of just thinking through analogies in like very flowery cosmological language, you start to say, like, okay, I am in the fashion industry. Although you know that it's not just the fashion industry, but you're able to kind of settle into, like, okay, this is fashion, this is hospitality, this is whatever, right? In this phase, you can communicate your vision in general terms and associations and angles, but there's still not enough separation. You're still up here, but you haven't been able to bring it down into full grounding yet. This is the phase where I work with my clients in. The point here is to translate. This is where we together build conceptual distinction without creating energetic separation. So it's in this phase, it's easier to conceive like what it is, but still you can't say, this is what I'm building in like a succinct elevator pitch. You know what I mean? Phase 3 is founder as architect, or the structuring phase. This is where you're being asked to organize. This is where like the legal, the operational, and the brand frameworks emerge. And this is my domain. This is where I really get to share my own proficiency in this area when I work with founders in the Vision Revelation Intensive. So essentially in this phase, you're designing the vessels that carry the energy without leaking it. The energy meaning your vision, right? Like, you are, whether it's through pure articulation or you're able to start getting the proper legal documentation and structures, whatever it is, you're just able to start taking the vision and say, like, this part of the vision goes here, this part of the vision goes here, this part of the vision goes here. Like, I understand enough for separation. And this is the equivalent of like when, you know, in the beginning when God was like, I separated the night from the day and the sea from the land, the sky from below. That's essentially what it is. A lot of the thing is though, a lot of founders resist this phase because it almost feels like you're flattening the vision, or you're almost like commodifying what God has given you. Or you feel like you got so used to this vision just being in the founder as universe phase that you just kind of like, I don't know, you just feel kind of resisted to it. And I talk about this more in my video titled, what is it called? It's called let me look. So you can go look it up, because I'm not gonna edit this video and tag it. Sorry. 1 second. Let me just look here. It's titled From Formless to Form, the Power of Let There Be in Brand Creation. If you watch that video, it will expound on this section of the video, but essentially that video is a full expoundedness of phase 3, founder as architect. A lot of founders resist this phase because this is the first time they're coming to contact with bringing materialization to their vision. When you've been holding this vision, oftentimes for more than a decade. Most founders that I've worked with have been gestating and holding and thinking on this vision for more than a decade, sometimes almost all of their life. Most of their life, or for the better part of the decade, they have held this vision, they've been incubating this vision, they've been thinking on this vision, they've been praying on this vision, they've been trying to start it and not succeeding, whatever it is, they've been holding it. And so there's a lot of solidarity, there's a lot of comfort in holding it close to your chest, because at that point, it's just you. Remember, the founder's universe, it's all you. You are the vision. There's nothing that proves that this vision exists except you. Your existence is proof that this exists. It doesn't exist in an LLC. It doesn't exist in you hiring a CEO or you having a physical product yet. It's just you. And so if you are afraid to mess it up, or you're afraid to be judged, or if you're just not confident in your capacity to carry it through, you can get kind of stuck at this phase. I had a client just like this actually in my Vision Revelation Intensive, where they had this vision since probably the past 15 years. They held it, and they've been oscillating between founder as architect, founder as universe, and founder as lens for as long as they can remember, right? Like they were incubating the vision, and then they were kind of giving name to it, and then they were kind of starting things. They may have had a prototype, or they may have had a designer work on it, whatever it is. They just haven't fully said, I'm ready for it to be, you know? And so whenever I would bring them articulation, they would say like, oh, no, it doesn't look like that. But really the resistance to receiving the articulation was because they just weren't ready to let go of the previous phases. And that is something that I work my clients through as they work with me in the Vision Revelation Intensive. So the main point of the founder as architect phase is reconciling spiritual unity with practical hierarchy, because the vision exists as one big conglomerate in your mind, and bringing it into full materialization requires hierarchy. It requires separation, and you have to learn that it's containment for sustainability long term. The next phase is the founder as conductor. That's the integration phase, and the whole goal of it is orchestration. And this is the phase where things get a lot more clear. Now is no longer night and day, land and sea, or sky and below, whatever it is. It's no longer just like a general understanding. It's this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is why, and this is what it is, this is who it is, this is how it, you know what I mean? And this is the part where you're able to move between the entities of your ventures and your projects and expressions with fluidity, and you're able to direct energy and resources towards each one. The brands, the sub-brands, your ventures, they all begin to harmonize and kind of sing the shared values, aesthetics, essence, and core impact and mission that your ventures share in the universe. And each creation has its own rhythm, and they contribute to the symphony of your brand universe in harmony. This is the phase where things start to move a lot smoother. So now, up until this point, things have been a bit confusing. You may not have had the articulation, but at phase 4, founder as conductor, the integration phase, you can articulate this with ease. You can. This is the part where there's no confusion when you're pitching yourself. There's no confusion when you're establishing yourself more concretely. Everything is pure and clear. And then the last phase, the founder as continuum, the legacy phase, this is where your universe begins to operate beyond your personal energy. So up until this point, you had to be very hands-on and being the one who articulates, the one who discerns, the one who kind of organizes things. That's why phase 4 was called the conductive phase. But at this phase, your structures, your ventures begin to exist on their own. Like each entity, project, and product becomes a frequency holder of the original essence of your vision. In this stage, you're more so going to transition to nurturing the culture, transmitting the culture, maintaining the alignment. This is what I would call the phase as Chief Alignment Officer. You're the one who sits kind of at the center of it all, making sure everything stays aligned with the vision. You go from creator to continuum, and you'll realize that you were never just building a brand or a house of brands. You are literally building a civilization of consciousness. You're literally building and maintaining a whole paradigm. You're influencing culture in that way. And phase 5 is the phase where I typically work with my clients in the aligned partnership. That is my covenant-based partnership container where we walk together and ensure that there's direct alignment with everything that they received in their vision. Anyways, those are the 5 phases. I would love to hear what phase you feel like you are in right now in the comments. What has been your challenges? What has been your biggest hesitation in kind of leading yourself through the next phase? And if you would like me to guide you through these phases like I do with my clients in the in the Vision Revelation Intensive or the Aligned Partnership, DM me on Instagram at the Brand Priestess, or click the link below to apply to work with me. I just want you to remember that in all that you're doing, whether you're in the brand as universe phase or the founder as universe phase or the founder as continuum phase, I just want you to remember that the goal is integrity or completeness and accuracy. They have to be complete and accurate. Never forget that. Because whenever you oscillate between or away from those things, the whole structure cannot maintain itself. Anyways, I thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.